Good morning. Just getting ready to start Synchronicity Tuesday. How are you doing today? I hope it's a good day. All right, it is 11 a.m. and I am excited today because I love talking about synchronicity. I love talking about how important synchronicity is in our lives, because we are a divine being in a body, and that synchronicity, the experience of synchronicity, is what helps us to keep expanding our divinity here on this planet right now. And you know what, if you're watching this, if you like my page, if you ever watch anything I ever post, you're probably a light worker, and a light worker is here really to carry as much light as possible. And synchronicity is what helps us do that, because synchronicity reveals that next biggest thing for us to step into. That's what synchronicity does. It reveals that next big thing. But I want to talk today about something that keeps us from the experience of synchronicity, that keeps us from seeing the greater thing that is revealed. It can even keep us from experiencing our own divinity. And that is the experience of energetic manipulation. Now, it's called different things in different circles. It just depends on where you're participating. But in a lot of the New Age groups, it can be called psychic attack. It might be called energy draining, energy manipulation. It might be like, oh, psychic vampires are after me. That kind of thing. Energy thievery. That's just, I don't know, that's how I look at it. Energy thievery and manipulation. Because when we are connected with somebody who is an energy thief and a manipulator, that drains us of our vital life force energy. And that will affect our creativity and the experience of our brightest good. That will affect how we will create, how we consciously create our next experience. However, energy manipulation, psychic attack, all that, psychic protection, needing all that, this is a very sensitive topic in a lot of New Age circles and spiritual circles even, because a lot of people will decide, oh, I'm so empathic, and so I can't be around you because your energy is super harsh. And so I just have to go away because I'm so sensitive. However, this is really not a badge of honor, because being a light worker is about being a spiritual warrior, not putting blame out on other people. Like, I mean, you wouldn't blame your dog for acting like a dog and tearing things up in the yard or chewing on your shoes. I mean, they're a dog. That's what they do. It's about us taking responsibility for our own energy. Now, we are never a victim. See, this is about when we are in our own divinity and in alignment with our divine nature, we understand this. We have more awareness. We are never a victim. That doesn't mean bad things can't happen to us. Bad things happen all the time. However, we know that we have that within us that knows what to do, and it compels us to act on what it knows. So even if something really traumatic or difficult happens, there is that within us that guides us through it, okay, through the process. So when we are manipulated energetically, it may be that we're not conscious that it's happening. Okay, we can be completely unaware. But we're still going to feel it, and you know what? We're still the one that's responsible for our energy. It's kind of the law, like a law of the universe. Like, we are creating our experience, and just because we're ignorant of universal laws, it doesn't mean they don't apply to us. Just like if you go to another country and you get a ticket for speeding, because you were ignorant of the traffic laws there, it doesn't get you out of the ticket, right? You still have to obey the laws. So we are never a victim. This is a really important thing to remember. We are never a victim. However, previous experiences can make us vulnerable to psychic manipulation, especially if we had traumatic experiences in our past. We could really be vulnerable. But what's important to remember is that the person who is energetically manipulating another person, they are not drawing their vital life force from source energy, which is infinite, right? It's infinite and abundant. We can have as much as we can possibly handle. However, somebody who's manipulating another person is not drawing on source energy. They're not drawing on infinite abundance. They're drawing on the energy of other people, which right there puts them in the bracket of being limited. Their consciousness is limited. So they're always going to act in their own self-interest, and they're always going to be thinking about self-preservation. So this is important when it comes to having a synchronous experience, because if we are being manipulated and our energy is being drained from us, we're not able to honor our divine nature, because when we get stuck in that cycle with somebody else, they start controlling us. And so if somebody's draining our energy, we're also caught up in that cycle with them. And so I'm going to talk today about a couple of levels of energetic manipulation. In different schools of thought, new agey schools of thought or spiritual schools of thought, there's like a whole bunch of different names. I don't want to get hung up on the exact name. I mean, we call them cords, we call them energetic hooks. There's like so many different names. So I'm just going to talk about 3 levels, okay? Really mild, kind of medium, and drastic, all right? Now, the most mild connection is more just energetic enabling. So we could be actually guilty of this as light workers. We tend to want to help other people. And energetic enabling can happen even when we're little kids and we're not intending to manipulate somebody. But what happens is we may be in an experience where we feel really, really sorry for someone. And so we want to give them our energy. Now, that's not consciously how it happens. But as an example, when I was little, I was about 7 years old. And it was just me, my mom, and my little baby sister. And we lived in this little tiny apartment. You know what? I wasn't even 7. I'm betting I was like 6, okay? Which, not a huge deal, I guess. But I was probably 6 years old. And the landlord came to our apartment and was yelling at my mom. I don't know what about. But my mom was crying. My mother was crying. And my mom had me when she was like 21 years old, so she was still young and alone. Right, my stepdad, I don't know where the hell he was. He like always took off like when it suited him. So there was my mom being yelled at by our landlord. And so I yelled at the landlord to get out. Little 6-year-old kid yelling at the landlord. And I decided right then and there I was going to protect my mom. She needed protection. Now, consciously again, I wasn't like, here mom, take all my energy. But there was a silent agreement. When my mother allowed me to protect her, there was a silent exchange of an energetic connection. So that's it. That is energetic enabling. And this happens to so many of us when we're little, right? There's somebody in our life. It doesn't have to be a parent. It could be a sibling. It could be a friend. It could be somebody, but it's usually somebody we care about. And that feeling is, I feel so sorry for you. I want to give you my energy. So that's kind of a more mild level, but see I was in my late 20s, early 30s when I discovered that energetic connection. Because I was studying shamanism. I didn't know about all this stuff back then. So anyway, we can make that connection as a child and maintain that connection for years and years and years. All right, so a more middle level of energy drain is kind of the most common stereotype for a energetic cord. But what happens is that with a cord, how we can be guilty of accepting a cord or giving a cord is we may, as healers, as helpers, we may actually find ourselves feeling sorry for a person, wanting to fix them, wanting to take responsibility for their healing. And if they enjoy having somebody else want to take care of all their problems, then there's an energy exchange. And they're now taking our energy. So it kind of Works for them because they are not drawing on source energy. And it works for us if we're in a space where we're kind of codependent and we need to fix things. Now, really, when this is happening, we're just wanting to feel better, like we have power, like we're helping, like we're helpers. But when we have this kind of energetic cord between us, it's still drawing energy from us that we don't have that kind of energy to spare. And they should be taking energy from divine source. So what happens is when we have this cord, we might think about this person more frequently than we should be. And even if we're not seeing them, maybe we're thinking about other things we can do to help them. And we might find ourselves talking about helping them to our other friends. And like our other friends may be like, why are they talking to me about this person? I don't even know them. And the person who's really needy and needing our energy, they may drain us when we're actually around them. So when we're not around them, we're thinking about how we can help them. But when we are around them, they're draining us. I remember when I was a massage therapist, I had this one client and the massage would be over and I could barely get her out the door. And then even though I had another client waiting, I'd finally get her out the door and I'd get my room all cleaned up and I would be waiting for my next client to be ready to be on the table. And the previous client would like catch me in the hallway and block me, and still have more to say. And I was sucked into this because I wasn't honoring my boundaries. That's like a big thing with energetic cords, is we're not honoring our boundaries. So we can be vulnerable to this one simply because we want to help other people. All right, then the most invasive of energy manipulation. This is a more intrusive form, and it's intentional, and it is done through manipulation. So it is an intentional manipulation. And what happens with this form of energy abuse is that another person wants to control someone. And so they may start out by telling them how great they are, but then not accepting them, then telling them that they failed at things. Now, you know what happens when we get rejected? There's almost this obsession to follow up on that rejection. There's almost an obsession to gain acceptance. It's crazy, right? We don't want to be rejected. We just don't want to be rejected. Well, somebody who is practicing this really invasive form, this intrusive form of energy manipulation will know this. And they will know that as they reject people, there's a good chance somebody's going to come crawling back to them, doing whatever it takes to gain their acceptance. Now, in the last few years, understanding of being in relationships with people who are narcissists and psychopaths and sociopaths has become really common understanding on the internet. And you can recognize this if you go search on narcissistic relationships. You can really see how they can manipulate other people. It's crazy. But see, when we're not walking in our own divinity, we can get swept up in all that, right? We can get swept up in that and needing the approval. Now, having this type of deep energetic manipulation, it can cloud our understanding that we maybe need to get out of that relationship. And so that's another thing we have to overcome, right? So this is a tough form of energy to get out of, but we can clear all of this energy manipulation. We can clear this. I will tell you that once you have cleared any of these levels of energetic manipulation in your life, if you disconnect that other person that you had that connection to, that unhealthy connection to, and they've gotten used to thriving on your energy and they're loving your energy, when they feel you disconnect, they're going to do things to reconnect with you. If they're a person that you see all the time, maybe they're in your family, they may stir up a lot of drama and to get your attention, to get you to fix them. If it's somebody like a previous relationship from 10, 20, 30 years ago, they may suddenly look you up on Facebook. So you want to watch out for that. But we also want to remember that we are not victims, right? We are not victims. Now, being empathic is work. There's an energetic sensitivity there, and it takes work to manage it. But overall, the level of empathy in people across the board has increased from what it was, say, 10 or 20 years ago. In fact, it was about 10 years ago or 15 years ago that I started hearing more about empathy. Like, there were more people drawn to spiritual groups because they discovered how empathic they are. And so they want to join these new age groups. They want to learn about energy healing because they're trying to deal with being so empathic. But see, anymore, being empathic is not an excuse to allow energy mismanagement as to be part of your life. Being empathic is not, and being so sensitive to the energy of other people, it's not a badge of honor. We want to remember that. It is a reminder that we need to manage our own energy. So we want to have a really good practice, a daily practice of managing our energy. And most people don't like to hear this because it's not magical. One of the most powerful things we can do to avoid energetic manipulation so that we can always stand in our divinity. It's not sexy. It is not magical. It doesn't sound new agey or spiritual. It is going to sound boring. And at this point, you might even stop listening to this feed, because it's not fun, right? It's not fun. But the thing that helps us to manage our own energy is to learn to become assertive. That's it. Assertiveness. Assertiveness teaches us about managing the energy in all of our relationships. Every relationship across the board. All day long, we are in relationship with other people. Some of these are closer relationships, family, good friends. Some of these are not so close. They're acquaintances, work friends, or colleagues. Some of these are even, less connected, like with the barista when you got your coffee this morning, or getting your hair done, your hairdresser, saying hi to your mailman, getting something from the pharmacy. Those interactions have less energetic investment in them. But all day long, we are in relationship. Unless you get to just like stay in your house or your cave on top of the mountain and you don't have to interact with people, we're in relationships, a good portion of our time. Now, healthy relationships are synergistic, and there's a balance there. There's a giving and there's a receiving. This even includes taking turns compromising. It's okay to compromise if the person you're in relationship with is willing to compromise too. I'd like to think that my husband and I are good at taking turns compromising. I hope he feels that way too. But see, it's the unhealthy relationships where we are going to be vulnerable to energetic manipulation. And unhealthy relationships have a couple of things that are always present in them, okay? And one of the things is that there is manipulation. Another thing is that there is dishonesty. Now, say that you're in a relationship and you're worried about seeking approval from that person. So you will manipulate them by trying to be who you think they want you to be. So that's manipulation and that's dishonesty. If we are not authentic, we're trying to manipulate, so we're being dishonest, so we can have somebody like us and approve of us. We're not standing in our own divinity, which means we are not drawing our vital life force from source energy. We're now connected to somebody else. We're drawing energy from them, which depends on them approving of us. Somebody who is a rescuer, they want to control a relationship, which means they are also not standing in their divinity. When we stand in our divinity, we don't see other people as needing to be rescued because we see that they have within them the same thing that we have within us, divine source energy, vital life force energy, seeking to expand through us all the time. If we think someone needs to be rescued, we think we know better than they do. Now, there's a big difference between rescuing and offering to help somebody. We can offer a hand up, right? We can be there for somebody, but we can be there for them also acknowledging that they are source energy in a body. right? And so that they have that within them that knows what to do and will compel them to act on what it knows, just like we do. Now, another thing that harms relationships is passive-aggressive behavior. A passive-aggressive person wants to be rescued, but they are not about to ask for what they need. So somebody who's passive-aggressive, and I have done this. In fact, everything I'm talking to you about today, I've experienced all of it. I've been on both ends of it. I've been a manipulator and been manipulated. All right? So I just want you to know this. Passive-aggressive people, like, okay, they won't ask for what they want. They'll be sarcastic about things. They'll drop hints about what they want without actually asking. And they'll lay on the guilt. And a good example of, like, one time, this is what I did. And it was so stupid. But I had a really pounding headache. And what I really wanted was some Advil and ginger ale, right? It was one of those headaches. My husband says, do you want me to go to the store for you? I can go and pick that stuff up. Just let me know. Well, I got mad because I didn't want him to ask me and to put that on me. I wanted him to say, I am going to the store for you and I will get you your ginger ale and your aspirin. Instead, I'm like, no, you had a long day. You work so long. It's okay, right? And this passive aggressive, like laying on the guilt. And then I was mad about it because he didn't just like take the hint, right? So that's passive aggressive behavior. It's manipulative. And there's no connection. There's not drawing. I won't say no connection, but there's not drawing from source energy, that vital life force energy. Also, aggression is dangerous in relationships. And aggression, somebody who's aggressive will always feel like they're attacked. So they're always in defense mode. And they will have no regard for the feelings of other people. So if you're in a relationship with someone who is aggressive, you might feel attacked or intimidated. You're going to feel like you're being bullied. And if that frightens you, if you feel like you have to behave in a certain way to please them, then you're not standing in your own divinity. And there's an energetic connection there that is toxic, okay? And that the aggressive person is taking energy from you. Aggressive people, passive aggressive people who want to be rescued, okay, or want to do all the rescuing. What was the other one? Dishonest people. Well, they're not trustworthy in relationships. They're not trustworthy because they never tell the truth and they don't honor boundaries. You can't count on what they're saying. Now, this is the person who's not assertive, right? You just cannot trust them because they won't share how they're really feeling. Now, in a healthy relationship, healthy relationships are honest and authentic, and each person takes responsibility for their feelings. But we have to be an assertive person to be in a healthy relationship. Now, when I talk about being assertive, so often, and I had to learn this too, I used to think that assertive and aggressive were the same thing. That's what I really thought. But assertive is actually very divine. Assertive people stand in their own divinity. They honor who they are as a divine being in a body. They make choices that honor their divinity and are for their greatest good and the greatest good of those around them. An assertive person is honest and they are authentic and they set boundaries. So the big difference, right, is an assertive person, they're really forthright and they are clear about what they want. They're clear about what they need, and they consider the rights and the wants and the needs of other people. An aggressive person does not consider what's best for everybody. They only do what is in their best interest without regard to what other people need or what they might want, or even what their rights are. So an assertive person, they honestly share their feelings, and they will always tell you the truth. And so this helps us to trust them then, because we know they'll tell us the hard things. See, a lot of people, there's an energetic manipulation because sometimes people don't want to have those hard conversations. You know, like with family members, like this behavior is not appropriate and I'm not going to tolerate it anymore. Often we're hoping that something out there will shift and the universe will just step in and things will change without us having to change them. But we always have to take part in that change. That's what it means to be a divine being in a body, is we are consciously co-creating our lives. So an assertive person is consciously co-creating their lives, and they honestly share their feelings, and they're truthful, so we can trust them. So when we are honestly sharing our feelings, what we need, what we want, we become trustworthy. Assertive people respect the feelings of other people. They wouldn't say that they disliked a person, they might say they disliked the behavior. But see, they're trustworthy because they're being honest about them. An assertive person knows that they cannot change other people and that they have to start from where they are and do what they can with what they have. The biggest thing about an assertive person that helps to maintain energetic boundaries, the most powerful tool that an assertive person has when it comes to energetic manipulation and avoiding all that, is that they have good boundaries. They know when to say yes, and they know when to say no. And they honor their boundaries, and they make sure that other people honor their boundaries too. And so an assertive person will always feel understood. When we are in a relationship with assertive people, we trust that relationship. And so we want to be trustworthy also. Now, the thing about being assertive is that creates deeper, authentic relationships with other people. But when we are assertive, when we are authentic, when we are standing in our own divinity, when we have no need to manipulate others because we know we have that within us that knows what to do and how to do it, and it compels us to act on what it knows, we become uninteresting to those people who are energetic manipulators. Okay, those energetic vampires or whatever you want to call them. Assertive people cannot be manipulated, and so they become uninteresting. An energetic vampire wouldn't occur to them to try to get an energetic cord into an assertive person. So this is really important to us. Now, assertiveness takes practice. It takes practice. And I think one of the most amazing practices for assertiveness is really to follow the 4 agreements. I'm sure you've probably read that book by Don Miguel Ruiz. The 4 agreements are amazing tools for being authentic and being honest. And that's what an assertive person is. So you don't have to call yourself assertive if that feels like a weird, harsh word. But you can say, I am impeccable with my word. I am a trustworthy person. I am honest and I honor my boundaries, and I expect other people to honor my boundaries, and I help them honor my boundaries. That's what an assertive person would do. Okay, but the 4 agreements: be impeccable with your word. We remember, words have power, so we want to speak with integrity and not gossip. Just speak with love and ask ourselves this: if we need to share something, is it kind? Is it true? Is it necessary? The 2nd agreement: don't take anything personally. Remember, we're not here to seek approval of everybody else. That's really hard, and that does not allow us to be walking around on this planet in awareness of our divinity. We are trying to please everybody else. We become fragmented. And so it's really important to be comfortable with this idea of not taking things personally. How other people react is about them. It's not you. And at the best that you can do is influence, but even that is limited. So just that takes a lot of practice. Just don't take things personally. Remember, if they say something about you, you did this or you did that, they're projecting, unless you really did do something. Okay. Don't make assumptions. That's the 3rd agreement. Don't make assumptions. We want to ask questions. We want to be really clear on things. As we listen to other people, they also feel more understood. So we want to ask plenty of questions, and we want to be really, really clear on what we want and not just assume that somebody else will get it right. Not just assume that they're going to be psychic like we hope, right? We clearly ask for what we want. And if we don't understand what they're going through, we ask them to please clearly explain it so we can understand it. And then always do our best. Always do our best. That's the fourth agreement. And our best is going to change according to our current circumstances, according to how we're feeling, our health, how much, how we're managing our time. So we want to just do our best. This is not about striving to seek perfection. In fact, actually, seeking perfection makes us vulnerable to energy manipulation, right? So we want to be careful about seeking perfection. We just do our best with what we have, with where we are right now. Now, also, sometimes energy management, it is alone time. Like I know loads and loads of empathic people who say, oh, I just need to have my alone time. Well, this is true. We do need to have our alone time. One of my favorite parts of the day is around 7:45, where I know I'm about to get ready for bed, and I climb into bed with my 3 gigantic pillows and whatever book I'm reading, and my little book light so that I can clip it onto my book and see really well and just be all cozy down on my pillows. I love that time of day. I love it. It rejuvenates me. So we do need authentic rest and restoration to be able to keep ourselves from being vulnerable to energy manipulation. Now, I recently experienced this because I got overwhelmed, I got overexhausted, and I got burnt out. And a family member who didn't mean, they weren't consciously trying to manipulate me, but a family member did manipulate me. And when I realized that, I was like, whoa, okay, this is what happened. This is why I'm going through this feeling of suffering. I had to manage my energy from that point forward. They were not going to choose to make my life easier. They were just not going to choose that. I had to choose to honor my boundaries and get that rest and restoration that I needed. Get massage, get chiropractic, go to your favorite place in nature. But remember, these things recharge us, but ultimately, energy management is about the choices that we make and the actions that we take every day. This is really important. This is really important. I understand that some people are just real psychically open and feel like they're attacked. But everybody is in charge of their own energy. Everybody has an infinite supply of source energy to utilize as vital life force energy. Everyone has the same access to all of this energy. If somebody says, but I'm so psychic and I'm so open and I can't handle all this, this is actually just limited their experience of their own divinity. There's a limitation on them. All of us have the same amount of infinite source energy available to us. And so we want to learn to manage it. Yes, I acknowledge people are, like over these last 20 years, there are more people are experiencing the psychic openness, the psychic awareness. It is true. People are just like more aware of like the other realms and of the feelings of other people. So people are more highly psychic. They're more highly energetically sensitive. They are more empathic, right? I think this is just part of the ascension process or something. But remember this, you are either assertive or you are a target. And if this idea of assertiveness still feels really uncomfortable to you, I highly recommend a book called Assertiveness for Earth Angels by Doreen Virtue. It is the best book I have ever read on assertiveness. It's amazing. It's a little new agey, but I'm new agey, so I love it. Anyway, it's an amazing book. So remember this, we are either assertive or we are a target. A few years ago, I went in with a friend of mine and we visited a New Age center. It was a new Age center. And one of the co-founders kept talking about energy vampires. and how she is, because she had this big expansive energy and all the energy vampires wanted to come after her. And it was just kind of like, wow, the whole time sitting listening to her give this talk was basically, look at me, I'm so special. And it was kind of annoying, but it can feel that way. I mean, I was taught a long time ago when I first started like psychic, developing my psychic awareness and intuition, all that stuff. I remember having this vision of this weird, creepy clown face coming after me. And I told somebody I really just love this woman so much. She used to have a new age store here in Redlands. Her name was Deanna. And she said, yeah, when you put out your light, you put out light for everything. When you start shining your light really big and bright, you put out light for everything. So even the scary things are like, woo, look at that great energy. So you are putting out a fantastic energy. As you are a light worker, your light is expanding all the time, which means you want to take responsibility for caring for that energy, right? So that you can continually carry more and more energy all the time. There has to be a vibrational alignment between an energetic manipulator and their target. That target has to be waving a flag. Look at me, I'm open, right? I'm over here. There has to be an energetic alignment. When you manage your energy through being assertive, right? Through setting your boundaries, being honest, trustworthy, knowing exactly what you want, and making others explain to you clearly what it is they need from you. That strengthens your energetic connection, right? To being open to receive even more infinite, vital life source energy from source energy. And those energy manipulators out there will be uninterested in you because you'll be too much trouble. You'll be too much trouble. Now, this is also practice we have to do all the time. All the time. I find myself all the time, if I get overwhelmed or tired, all of a sudden I become this energy. It's like, please, somebody come and suck some of my energy away. So we have to practice this all the time and remind ourselves all the time. When we're in a really good space, it can be easy to say, yes, I'm a divine being in a body and I feel so good. When we're really overwhelmed and tired, that can be more theoretical than experiential. So we have to manage our energy all the time. So back to the experience of synchronicity. This is important because as a divine being in a body, we are designed to expand. We are designed to follow divine instructions so that we can expand. Now, if we're in unhealthy, energetic relationships, we limit our personal and our spiritual growth. We also limit our ability to expand our consciousness. Now, this is really important because as we want to create new experiences, those new experiences take an expanded consciousness. We cannot create a new experience without also creating a new consciousness, right? That new consciousness has to come first. We have an expanded consciousness and we step into the new experience. When we are being energetically manipulated by others, we cannot expand our consciousness. And this is why it's so important to practice energy management. So I know this went really long today, but I want to thank you. If you've hung in there to this point, I thank you. And I thank you so much for sharing your light with me. If you have any comments or questions, I would love to hear them. So you have a really amazing rest of your day. Remember that you are a divine being in a body. You are vital life force right there, sitting in this beautiful package that you're sharing with the planet every day. And so I just wish for you that. I wish for you the beauty and the expansion that you were designed to be experiencing every day. All right, you take care. We'll see you soon.